know that we have
Recording is on.
a very strong requirement within the banking and financial services industry for know your customer requirements. And it seems like in the process of knowing your customer and knowing your business, you don't really get to know your customer. So I'd like to just introduce myself on a personal level. My name is Joshua Hawley. I was born in Wyoming on the Wind River Indian Reservation in a town called Riverton in 1978. I'm an entrepreneur, investor. I founded Satoshi Limited and Rocky Mountain Blockchain Intelligence in 2018. Founded the Blockchain Mauritius Foundation and the Mauritius Ethereum Foundation in 2017. I studied quantum consciousness at the Bhaktivedanta Institute in Berkeley, California. Studied international business management at Webster University, and during the COVID lockdown, I finished my fintech law program at Duke University. I've been a resident of Mauritius since 2009. I'm a board member and shareholder and partner advisor to several different companies, including Quantum Capital in Nigeria, and US Capital Global in the United States, as well as London. My main focus career-wise and business-wise is blockchain, cryptocurrency, with a major focus on emerging markets, African markets, with a specific focus on mid-cap debt equity finance. My business is focused on mid-cap debt equity finance and OTC cryptocurrency. We also do corporate structure and advisory with a focus on Africa, GCC, and North America. Look at that point, forgetting that Bitcoin is the first blockchain. So I think it's important to recognize that, and thus the logo with the Bitcoin logo and the Blockchain Mauritius Foundation. The foundation was created to promote decentralized governance, develop and support the blockchain ecosystem in Mauritius and the region, to provide research, support, and analysis to ecosystem stakeholders, both domestically and abroad, and then encourage and support blockchain and digital asset adoption for businesses, and provide access to qualified legal advice and framework from Mauritius and beyond, globally into the various jurisdictions that I'm familiar with, which include Switzerland, Singapore, Hong Kong, United States, UK, etc. A bit about the company, Satoshi Limited. We are an institutional OTC for cryptocurrency. We support BTC, Bitcoin Cash. I know that may be and somewhat of a negative connotation for some people, but we do support Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, USDT, XRP. We settle in USD. We have volume up to 1 billion USD with fiat settlement up to $10 million per day. We are a Mauritius FSC licensed, regulated, private limited company. And then we have a sister company, which is Rocky Mountain Blockchain Intelligence, which is an LLC registered in Wyoming, which is FinCEN regulated and BSA compliant. We are an insured operator, which means that we have indemnity insurance on asset trading as well as bank bank transfers. We and myself, I've been involved in a number of ICOs over the past 3 years, 4 years. When I first entered the space, it was pretty much a free for all with the ICOs. And immediately I recognized a need to integrate with existing regulatory framework. And that was a big part of my initial work in the space with the Blockchain Foundation, was identifying existing regulations, tying them in to what we're doing with smart contracts, with tokenization, and building products that match traditional securities products. So our security token platform, we built a security token platform. It is a cross-chain tokenization platform. It's KYC integrated, allows for issuance and management of tokens. That's done under Mauritius private placement framework. So the STO framework that exists within Mauritius is one of private placement, which means that it's up to 25 sophisticated or professional investors. We do consulting and framework for tokenized private and public debt equity raises. So these are traditional paper offerings. We do this from Mauritius and out into North America, UK, etc. This includes listing on stock exchange of Mauritius. I've been involved in a number of Reg D offerings. We can structure for Reg A plus and Reg S filings in the United States, as well as private placement from the UK. We've got a network of STO exchanges that we can list tokens from. So if clients have a issuance that originates from Mauritius, those tokens can then enter onto a licensed exchange, either in Singapore, Isle of Man, Estonia, or North America and the United States. We're focusing primarily on mid-cap debt equity finance, originating from Africa. We're largely sector agnostic, although we like to see companies with operating history, 5 to 10 years operating history, with revenues anywhere from 5 to 25 million minimum. And then we place anywhere from 5 million up to 100 million domestically within Mauritius. And the Mauritius market is primarily debt finance. So the liquidity in the Mauritius market is primarily around debt finance. 2019, we placed 30 million USD through Reg D in partnership with US Capital. We've got partnerships here on the ground with Grant Thornton. So when we structure private placements, when we structure issuances, when we structure debt products or equity products, whether private or intended to list on stock exchange of Mauritius, we involve Grant Thornton. Grant Thornton runs the audits. They physically come out and visit the client, run the paper on the product. We build a product that is ultimately gets a credit rating, obtains an ISIN, and then qualifies for institutional investment. And that includes domestic institutional investment as well as syndication out into the Middle East, GCC, Europe, and North America. We've also partnered with DLA Piper, who are phenomenal. I found them to be extraordinarily well-versed in the space. Arvind Halkari is an amazing legal counsel at Juris Consult. They did our legal opinion for Satoshi Limited and did a fantastic job. And then we've got partnership with US Capital Global, which is a US broker dealer placing approximately $750 million per year in debt equity from the United States. And then from London, they just got their license, so they're offering into Europe. And then we've got CoinStreet out of Hong Kong, and we're doing the Global Online Investor Roadshow with CoinStreet. And that just launched last month. We did 4 projects last month. And they're quite diverse. We had a bank from the United States, bank holding company, that raised $15 million through the GOIR. We had a oil and gas pipeline processing out of India. It's quite a large project, 100 million. And then a transport company out of Bangkok, Thailand. And that's ongoing. So any company that would like to get involved in the Global Online Investor Roadshow can contact me. We do pre-approval for those and can get people onto that as well. So fintech in Mauritius, it really started in 2018. And it started with the FinTech Committee, and that was created under the auspices of the FSC, which is the Financial Services Commission. There is a regulatory sandbox license that's available under the Economic Development Board, which is a separate institution to the FSC. The FSC and the EDB created a partnership to audit and track projects that want to list on under the sandbox license. So there's a number of companies that have done that, including CryptoFish, and we've got local Mauritian. I don't know if he's joined us, but they're doing quite well. They've been operating for a couple of years, doing direct sales of Bitcoin. The one thing with Mauritius is that we don't really have support from the retail banking system yet, although it looks like that's going to change pretty soon. The former head of the FSC is now the chairman of Bank of Mauritius. And he was on Consensus 2 weeks ago, the Consensus Forum 2 weeks ago, talking about CBDCs and how Bank of Mauritius is now supporting CBDCs. So that's a positive step forward. We still like to see them issue a formal statement to the retail banks, allowing for retail banking and business banking support. The FinTech Committee identified 3 areas of primary concern in 2018. That's STOs. Initially, they were called ITOs, which is an initial token offering, later branded as security token offerings, digital assets custody, and trading of digital assets. Out of those 3, we've got specific regulation on 2 of those, which is the STO, which falls under existing private placement law, and then the digital asset custody license, which came out in 2018. They identified 3 non-mutually exclusive categories of token. Cryptocurrency, which is payments, which is basically Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dash, Monero, XRP. All of the tokens that we trade are categorized as cryptocurrency. Then utility tokens, they call them officially access tokens. We know them in the industry as utility tokens. So these are tokens that cannot be traded for value off of the platform from which they're issued. And then security tokens, and those are equities, debt, derivatives, etc. And then separately from that, they also recognize that there can be a hybrid category which may hold characteristics of one or more of those tokens. So you may have a utility token that then acts as later on a security token, or a cryptocurrency that then evolves to act as a security. Most of what the FSC has done in terms of application is around existing legislative framework, which is primarily built around the 2007 Securities Act. And it's dealing with securities and derivatives, and then the FIAMLA 2002 Anti-Money Laundering Act, and that pertains to payments in fiat. Any issue of tokens is regulated by the FSC if the tokens are considered securities. Now, there's no specific filing or license required to issue an STO, which I think is interesting. However, the STO must follow the private placement standards, which are standard private placement law. So in other words, all of the standard disclosures that go along with a private placement issuance have to be included in the token offering. Any offer, trading, underwriting, distribution, as well as solicitation in relationship to a security token constitutes a licensable activity under the Securities Act. So just to point out, with what we're doing on the OTC side, cryptocurrency does not classify as a security token under FSC regulation. So there is a subtle loophole there. And it was interesting that, we had to transfer through, I think, 3 or 4 management companies, and then finally got an opinion from DLA Piper that allowed us to actually start the business and be able to trade and offer OTC settlement of cryptocurrency. On the issuance side, we're acting as a technical service provider. The actual operation in terms of on paper, the issuance runs through Grant Thornton. So Grant Thornton is operating as a CFA, certified corporate advisor. Access tokens and cryptocurrencies are not considered as securities to the extent that they don't have an investment function, which is somehow, if you look at cryptocurrencies are largely considered an investment or an asset class. Within the FSC regulation, it's limited to sophisticated investors. So within Mauritius, technically speaking, according to the FSC, according to the definitions that are included in the guidance notes, and it's not law, mind you, but included in the guidance notes, that it's offered to sophisticated investors, which are basically accredited investors or professional investors. So the FSC has issued a couple documents over the past 2 years, guidance notes on digital assets. They've used definitions from the Financial Action Task Force to define cryptocurrencies as a category of digital assets. And it's technical, math-based, decentralized, convertible, virtual currency protected by cryptography. Those of you that are familiar with Bitcoin, know that it's built around SHA-256 cryptography. It's a unit of account or store of value, but does not have legal tender status. Although we may see a change. We may see a change that it could replace fiat currency. The FSC recognizes digital assets, including cryptocurrencies. They constitute an asset class for investment to sophisticated investors, as I mentioned. Basically, if you're H&I, professional investor, if you're a fund, etc., then you are qualified to invest in cryptocurrency, according to the FSC, under the guidance notes. And again, there's no law specifically created for the governance of cryptocurrency trading or investment, but this is the guidance provided by the FSC. And if you want to read more about that, it is on the FSC website, and I'll post links below. And anybody that wants this presentation, you can email me and I'll send it out to you in PDF. The custody license for digital assets came out last year, late last year. To date, I don't know of any company that has obtained that license. It is quite heavy to get that license. It's a $5 million unencumbered funds on account under escrow. And then some pretty serious audits on the actual custody. And if you want to read more about that, I won't go into too much detail on that right now, but if you want to read more about that, the link is there. So I'd like to also talk about Mauritius as a jurisdiction. And one of the things that I've found in Mauritius is that it is a very unique jurisdiction from a business structuring standpoint. It is a common law jurisdiction. It's been a base of activity. It initially started as an offshore jurisdiction, primarily for the Indian market. And that's where the bulk of the offshore market really developed. It developed from the Indian offshore economy entering into Africa. And so the Indian IT companies, Indian telcos, et cetera, that entered into Africa have done so through Mauritius. And that includes agriculture, that includes minerals, et cetera. And it's a huge economy. The offshore economy is massive. It's several $100 billion annually. So it is a standard for African-based business and investment. And the legal framework that exists here is extremely robust. It goes all the way up to the UK high courts. Another thing I'd like to point out is that Mauritius is party to multiple countries in Africa for double taxation and free trade. And I have direct experience in this. I invested in a company in Uganda called Uganda Carbon Exchange back in 2018. And we found out back then, actually through DLA Piper in Denmark, one of the partners was a partner at DLA Piper in Denmark, and found out that Mauritius is party to Uganda on this tax treaty. So structuring a holding company makes a lot of sense for companies that are doing business in Africa. Another key point of Mauritius is that there are no restrictions on capital repatriation. So foreign currency is non-restricted. And there's accounts available in USD, Euro, Pound, Yen, South African Rand, Australian dollar, et cetera. The Mauritius market holds, I think it's about $1.3 trillion right now in assets offshore. So it's a reasonably sized offshore market and very well established from a banking standpoint, as well as from a trade and taxation standpoint. Mauritius tax-wise, offshore is taxed at between 3% and 15%. If it's financial services related, it's 3% on a GBL. And I'll get into that later, but a GBL is a global business license. For trade, et cetera, you're at 15%. And there are some clauses that allow for workarounds, and you can get down to even less than 3%. There's another structure called a Mauritius authorized company. And that entity is also an offshore company, and that is a zero tax company, which is Basically, with a Mauritius authorized company, one is required just to report in the countries within which they're doing business. So one does not pay tax within Mauritius using a Mauritius authorized company. And then onshore tax is a flat 15% on income. There's no capital gains tax. There's no tax on dividends. So structuring holding companies, structuring operating companies from Mauritius into Africa and even into GCC in Europe. And we know of several companies that have done this, and we've even got New York funds that are headquartered here to take advantage of the advantageous tax regime. Mauritius is rated #1 in Africa for ease of business. It's number 20 in the world by World Bank out of 190 countries surveyed. It's got a Moody's credit rating of Baa1. It's got a BBB plus rating from the S&P. As I mentioned earlier, we have no capital restrictions on foreign currency incoming or outgoing. However, I will say during the coronavirus, they did shut down USD outgoing for Mauritian citizens, for domestic Mauritian companies. The offshore sector was not affected, but the onshore sector was affected. Mauritius is a member of COMESA and SADC. It's a beneficiary of the GSP, which is the Generalized System of Preferences. It's part of the Customs Union of Russia. And we have seen a number of CIS states, Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, etc., investing in Mauritius primarily in the real estate market. That's another thing that I didn't include in the presentation, but the Mauritius real estate market provides access to investment in what's called PDS. And the PDS allows for residency. So minimum investment of 500,000 US dollar, and you're able to have a 10-year residency, which then leads to citizenship. It is a common law jurisdiction, as I pointed out earlier. It's a UNCITRAL arbitration standard. Mauritius has the International Arbitration Standard. We've got the Chamber of Commerce and Industry here, and it is a permanent member of the Court of Arbitration at The Hague. So it is a Hague signatory, which is, I think, also a key point, as, for example, Uganda is not. So if you have a company set up within Mauritius that holds assets within a country in Africa that does not, arbitration ultimately can go to The Hague. So it's a key consideration for companies that are looking to enter into Africa again. So a little bit about the global business license. It is a resident corporation. It's an offshore structure, resident corporation doing business outside of Mauritius, which means that clients have to originate from outside of Mauritius. In other words, you're taking your revenue, you're booking your business from customers outside of Mauritius. And in our case, our customers are primarily Africa, East Africa, West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana. We've got Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, as I mentioned earlier, and then South Africa. And then there's increasing interest from Southeast Asia. There was recently a structure for family office licensing, et cetera. So there's quite a lot of interest from Hong Kong and from mainland China. This GBL can be structured as a trust, a society, partnership, et cetera. It's governed by the FSC, which is the Financial Services Commission, which I think I mentioned earlier. The key stipulation on any offshore business is that it must have a local management company managing its operations. And what that means is that it has an assignment of 2 local resident directors. And so there's sort of, I think, maybe some confusion on this. You can't just come in here and set up a company without going through a management company. You have to engage with a management company to set up your business offshore. If you're looking to go onshore, you do have to find a local partner. And that local partnership is a 5149, similar to most other jurisdictions onshore. The principal bank account has to be in Mauritius, although in our case, we've got a bank account at Afrasia Bank, but we can't service it. So we've got bank accounts in the United States with Signature Bank and then with Wells Fargo Bank. So we're able to operate, through those banks. Profits are booked back in through Afrasia, et cetera. Let's see here. If you'd like to see more about that, there's a link here. And then we've got, this is an interesting structure. It's called a protected cell company. And it's primarily used, it's a global business license that is structured into different cells. And each cell is taxed independently and operated independently from one another. And that allows for protection within each cell from liability of the cells of the others. So if you have, for example, liquidation of one of the cells, the liability from that liquidation will not extend to any of the other cells. So for example, you've got a fund, right? That fund is investing in separate categories or separate sectors, in Africa. One of those sectors goes belly up. It doesn't affect the rest of the cells in the company. So that I think that's quite interesting. And then it's taxed collectively. So the taxation on a PCC is done at the parent level. So if individual cells are not doing well, the total taxation is at the parent level. These are good for insurance. That's the primary application. Specialized collective investment schemes. As I mentioned earlier, you may have a fund that's structured for investment in multiple categories, structured finance businesses, et cetera. And then there's a link here. And then if you guys would like a copy of the presentation or to inquire more about business opportunities in Mauritius, you can contact me directly. Or you can contact onboarding@satoshilimited.com. My Skype is Josh16108, and that's my WhatsApp. Take a look at the link to our finance and our OTC. If you're in Africa and you're looking to do business in Mauritius or seeking finance through Mauritius, we've got a framework that works very, very well for debt finance. So thank you all very much. I'd like to
thank you. It was very interesting to have this vision what is going on in Mauritius, because you have so many historic to explain. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And this kind of OTC is, I think, is a good idea, because we miss some exchange and pair trading and something in Reunion Island. So with Gianni, sometimes we speak and think about it to create or to have us this maybe an OTC or on exchange. That's perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Mark.
If anyone have some question, it's time. Joshua, I think is ready.
I see George there. George, how are you? I think he's on mute.
George is around.
Yeah.
I am on mute.
Yes. Yes.
Hi,
Yes.
George.
We
How
can
are
hear
you?
you now.
I usually don't put sound, so not to disturb anybody. Everything is good, thank you. Nice to see you there. I enjoyed the presentation, so looking forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
to be there. Thank you. So now we have a recording of this presentation, so we will share it later, Joshua.
Sure.
You have a this first souvenir of this first Smart Summit. Glad to have you. Thank you
Awesome,
very much.
Mark. Thank you so much. Thank you all for attending. Really appreciate it. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
We enjoyed
Now
it.
you have this private room, so you can make your business and have a question every time you want during these 3 days until Sunday evening. So, perfect.
Perfect, Mark.
Thank you very much. Enjoy it. See you. Bye bye.
Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.